For 40 years, an entire nation ate one single food. Not just once in a while, every single day, for 4 decades straight. So we're going to take a deep dive into this. We're going to investigate what the Manna diet really was. But here's the rule. We're only looking at the primary source record.
So what on earth was this food? Let's set aside tradition, set aside legend for just a minute. We're going to come at this like a food scientist, using only the textual evidence to build a profile of what might be the most successful single-item diet in all of history.
And the first thing you have to wrap your head around is the sheer length of time. The record is very clear on this. This wasn't some short-term emergency ration. We're talking 40 years. An entire generation was born and grew up eating this, and only this for breakfast.
And the scale, it is just staggering. The text counts about 600,000 men, and that's not including women and children. So realistically, you're looking at a population of over 2 million people, all of them kept alive by this one food source.
Okay, so what does the primary record actually say about it? Let's get into the weeds and analyze exactly how the text describes its physical appearance.
The very first description we get is all about how it looked. The text calls it a small round thing, and then it gives us this really specific visual. It was as fine, as delicate as frost on the ground.
A little later on, the description gets even more precise. It's compared to a coriander seed, which gives you a great idea of its size and maybe even its texture. And then we get the first clue about its flavor. It was white, and it tasted like wafers made with honey.
Now, what's really interesting is that a second account, this one from the Book of Numbers, doubles down on the coriander seed comparison. But it adds a brand new detail. It says the color was like bdellium, which was a known precious resin. So think of this beautiful, translucent, amber-like color.
And this is absolutely crucial. When you put the two accounts side by side, you see two different descriptions of the taste. Exodus says it was sweet, like honey wafers, but Numbers says it tasted like fresh oil. Now, that's not a contradiction. That's a clue. Sweet and fatty. That's two totally different macronutrient profiles packed into one single food.
So, beyond what it looked like and tasted like, the text lays out an incredibly strict set of rules for how you were supposed to gather it and eat it. This was not a casual buffet. This thing came with a protocol.
And the daily routine was super precise. It would show up with the morning dew, but you had to get it before the sun got too hot because it would literally just melt away. Everybody was supposed to gather exactly one portion, an omer. But probably the most important rule, you could not save it for the next day.
And the record is brutally honest about what happened if you broke that rule. It didn't just get a little stale. The text says it bred worms and it rotted. From a food science perspective, that screams a highly unstable substance, probably loaded with moisture or sugar that would just spoil incredibly fast. But to this really strict rule of use it or lose it, there was one and only one exception. And this part really highlights just how unique the properties of this stuff were.
On the 6th day, everyone was told to gather a double portion. And that extra portion, the one they saved for the Sabbath, it stayed perfectly fine. The text makes a point of saying it didn't stink and there were no worms. Chemically speaking, it behaved completely differently on that one specific day.
Okay, so with all these details from the text, we can actually start to build a real food science profile. Let's try to deconstruct manna's composition and its structure.
The record also tells us that manna wasn't always just eaten as is. People processed it. And that versatility tells us a whole lot. It implies a substance with a complex structure, something that could hold up to being ground, heated, and even boiled.
The Book of Numbers gets really specific on the methods. You could grind it in mills just like grain, or beat it in a mortar to make a paste. You could bake it in pans, form it into cakes, or even boil it. You can't do that with frost or dew. This is clearly describing a solid, structural food.
Now let's circle back to those two taste profiles. A taste like wafers made with honey, while that strongly suggests carbohydrates, sugars for quick energy. And a taste like fresh oil. That clearly points to fats, lipids, which are crucial for absorbing nutrients and for long-term energy.
So let's just recap our profile here. Based purely on the text, what we have is a seed-like granular substance. It's high in both carbohydrates and fats. It was malleable enough to be processed just like grain, but it was also incredibly unstable, melting in the sun, spoiling in a day, except for that one crucial Sabbath portion. Just as this 40-year diet had a very specific beginning, the source text records a very specific and immediate end.
So here's the timeline. For 40 years, from the moment they entered the wilderness until they got to the border of Canaan, manna was the daily bread. But the second they were able to eat the produce from the new land, the supply chain was cut.
And this wasn't some gradual phase-out. The text really emphasizes how sudden it was. One day they were eating manna, the very next day it was gone, for good.
The book of Joshua gives us the final definitive word on it. And the manna ceased on the morrow after they had eaten of the old corn of the land. Neither had the children of Israel manna any more.
And just like that, the most long-lasting single-food diet in history just stopped.
You know, the primary record is incredibly precise. It gives us a profile of a complete food with a perfect balance of carbs and fats that you could process like grain. But it also describes a substance that melted in the heat, spoiled in hours, yet somehow stayed perfectly stable one day a week. So the final question really isn't just what was it, but what kind of unique chemistry could allow a food to sustain millions for 40 years and then, without a trace, vanish overnight.